Hello everyone, for today we're going to be talking about wire. So for today's demo you're going to need some wire, some pliers, maybe some wire cutters. You can also use other things such as like pencils or other things to wrap wire around. It's great if you need like a specific shape. You can find something of that shape to wrap the wire around to get that shape. So I'm going to be showing you a few things about some basics of wire and explaining like how wire gauges work and stuff like that. For wire gauges, the smaller the number, the thicker the wire. So like this is 18 gauge wire, and you can see it's a pretty thick wire. I can still manipulate it with my hands, but if I want to have any kind of like thin or detailed thing, I need to have pliers on hand to manipulate it. And then we also have thinner wire, but has a higher number. So this is like 24 gauge wire. You can see it's a lot thinner, but it's like much easier to manipulate with my hands. So keep that in mind. Like the wire gauges are kind of like reversed from what you think they would be. It's the same for like metal gauges in general. So the smaller the number, the thicker it is. The bigger the number, the smaller it is. So for basic wire wrapping, I'm going to be wrapping the seashell. So it's just a plain old seashell. So what I did was I created like a little loop by twisting the wire like this, which created a nice loop that is the length of the back of the shell. So I'm using the back of the shell as like the back of the piece, and the front of the shell is the front. That way it's like really easy for you to see like what I'm doing. So I placed the wire on the back so that this like little loop is hanging off the top. That's really great for like attaching it to another piece of jewelry. So I'm placing the wire on these like little grooves that you can see. So you can either keep the wire together or you can separate it. I'm going to be separating it so I can like have one piece of wire in every single groove to like highlight it. So it's two pieces of wire, and I wrap it around the top, go down, separate the wire, pick the next two grooves, try with the one that doesn't want to stay, ignore the cat, wrap it around the loop. And of course, things will shift. But you can always like adjust them later because like the wire is very malleable. But the goal that I'm currently the goal of the wire wrapping is to have the thing that you're wire wrapping stay in the wire casing that you're basically creating. This is really great for like having like stones, shells. If you have like things glued together, like this shell is a bunch of beads and rhinestones inside, and you can like manipulate the wire to go around the object or objects attached to it. So while you're wire wrapping, think about like the designs that you want to have, because you can also have it be more aesthetically pleasing. For instance, I could also start wrapping it so it has like twirls and curves, which you would do. The easiest way is if you have a pair of needle nose pliers. Otherwise, you can just use another pair of pliers, or you can like twist it around. So you twist it. Now I have a lot of wire here because I wasn't entirely sure how much of like the twisted pattern I wanted to do. You can pre-cut wire, but the danger with that is that you might not have enough wire. So it's kind of you eyeball it and guess. And it gets easier like the longer you've been doing it. Otherwise, you can have a lot of wire like I currently have, but significantly harder to manipulate because sometimes you get the wire all tangled. So there's a pro con for everything. So you have to figure out like what you want to do. So here's the finished wire wrapped seashell. It's pretty simple. I only did like a few swirls and things. You could always add beads and other things. I'm going to be showing you some more complicated wire wrapping techniques for making things like rings or crowns or bracelets. So this is a technique that my mom taught me, where you take one thicker gauge of wire, and normally what she does is she tapes them together and wire wraps part of them as you can see right here, and then takes the thicker wire to create the designs here. So the center part is held by two wires coming from opposite directions that end in the swirls, and then there's the swirls from the other thicker wire. So I'm going to be showing you a way to do that. I'm going to be doing a larger piece so it's easier to see what I'm doing. But yeah. For this sculptural piece, the wire wrapping at the bottom would be how you would start a ring, but because I do not have a ring mandrel at my house currently, I'm going to turn it into a sculptural piece. But that's how you would start something like a ring, like I showed you before. And I'm going to wrap the other wire around just to make it like a pretty sculptural thing I might use as a pendant. I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but it's going to be really pretty. I have 3 pieces of 18 gauge copper wire taped together nice and flat, which is super helpful, and probably one of the most difficult parts is keeping it flat. It requires you taping it nice and tight. I'll be wire wrapping these 3 pieces together before I start anything else. While you're wrapping, keep in mind that you want to hold onto the wire so it's nice and tight, because the wire will keep its shape after you're done, especially since there's so many thick pieces being wrapped together. Other things to keep in mind is that things might shift a little, so if it gets too bad, you might have to restart or back up a little bit. Other things to keep in mind is watch out for cats, because sometimes cats can get involved. As you can see my cat in the background. So while I'm working, watch how I'm wrapping and moving the wire around the base of the roses so that the roses have a wire inside, a wire on the left side, and a wire on the right side. And then I'm slightly braiding the wires on the other side to keep their shape so the roses don't move. As I go through all of them, when I get to the end, I'm going to wire wrap one more time and then cut off all the excess. I hope you all enjoyed the wire wrapping demo and the wire demos in general. So now I have this lovely crown with blue roses and this weird sculptural thing. So for other tools that you might want for working with wire, a ring mandrel is super helpful for creating rings such as this one. You can also look at other tools such as a small anvil or other things to help straighten wire or to help curve wire. All right, have a great day.